"Get your screaming brats out of my wedding," Sarah shrieked, jabbing her perfectly manicured finger at my chest. "I can't have them ruining my perfect day with their chaos." I stood in her pristinely decorated living room, the invitation still clutched in my hand, staring at my sister-in-law in disbelief. My children, Emma, 6, and Lucas, 4. Weren't she just called brats? Were at home with their father, blissfully unaware that their aunt was uninviting them from her wedding just 3 days before the ceremony. "Sarah, they're your niece and nephew," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside me. "The same kids you asked to be your flower girl and ring bearer 6 months ago. The ones who've been practicing their roles every day." "Well, I've changed my mind," she snapped, snatching the invitation from my hand. "I saw how they behaved at the rehearsal dinner last night, running around, laughing too loud. It was embarrassing. My wedding needs to be perfect, and your kids will ruin everything." I thought about Emma in her little flower girl dress, twirling in front of the mirror, asking every day how many more sleeps until she could throw petals at Aunt Sarah's wedding. I thought about Lucas carefully carrying his pillow around the house, practicing his serious ring-bearer face. They were excited. I defended. It was past their bedtime, and they were happy to be part of your special day. "They're children, Sarah. They act like children." "Exactly," she exclaimed as if I'd proven her point. "I can't have children acting like children at my wedding. I've decided to make it an adults-only event." "Well, except for Madison's kids, they know how to behave properly." Madison was Sarah's best friend. Her 3 children were known in the family for being perpetually glued to their tablets, barely interacting with anyone. Of course they'd be allowed to stay. "You can't do this to them," I said, my voice finally betraying my emotion. "Emma will be heartbroken." Sarah's face hardened. "I can, and I am. In fact," she paused, a cruel smile playing at her lips, "maybe you should stay home too. I don't want you guilt-tripping everyone about your precious little angels missing out." My mother-in-law chose that moment to walk in, carrying a box of wedding favors. "Sarah, honey, what's going on?" I heard raised voices. "Nothing, Mom," Sarah said sweetly. "I was just explaining to Lisa that the wedding is now adults only. We want it to be sophisticated, you know." I watched as my mother-in-law's face fell slightly, but she quickly masked it. "Oh well, if that's what you want, dear. It's your special day." Of course, she'd take Sarah's side. She always did. "I'll let Tom and the kids know," I said quietly, gathering my purse. As I turned to leave, Sarah called after me. "Don't forget to return the flower girl dress and ring bearer outfit. I need a refund since they won't be used." I froze in the doorway, her words hitting me like a physical blow. The outfits I pay for myself. The ones my children have been so proud of. "Keep them," I said without turning around. "Consider them a wedding gift." As I drove home, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I wasn't just angry, I was livid. This wasn't about wedding etiquette or sophisticated ceremonies. This was Sarah doing what she'd always done, asserting her control, proving she could hurt us whenever she wanted. Tom was in the backyard with the kids when I got home. Emma was still practicing her petal throwing, scattering dandelions across the grass while Lucas followed behind her with his pillow. The sight made my heart ache. "Mommy," Emma called out, running to me. "Look, I'm getting better at making the petals go up high." I hugged her tightly, breathing in the sweet scent of her shampoo. "You sure are, baby." "What did Aunt Sarah want?" Tom asked, noticing my expression. Inside, I mouthed over the kids' heads. Once we'd sent them off to play in their room, I told him everything. "She did what?" Tom's face reddened with anger. "I'll call her right now." I grabbed his arm. "No, getting angry is exactly what she wants. She's trying to provoke us, to make us look like the difficult ones." "Then what do? We can't let her treat our kids like this." I smiled, an idea forming in my mind. "Actually, I have a better plan. But I'll need your help." The next morning, I made some calls. First to my friend Jessica, who worked at the same wedding venue where Sarah's reception would be held. Then to Madison's ex-husband, who'd been trying to reach her about the kids' tablet addiction. Finally, to Grandma Rose, the family matriarch, who'd been suspiciously left off the wedding guest list despite being the one who helped fund the entire event. 3 days, I told Tom that evening. In 3 days, Sarah's going to learn that actions have consequences. He looked at me curiously. What are you planning? I showed him the email I'd just received from Jessica, confirming certain arrangements for the reception. His eyes widened as he read it. Are you sure about this? He asked. I thought about Emma and Lucas, about their excitement turned to confusion when we told them they couldn't be in the wedding anymore. About Sarah's smug face as she uninvited us. Oh yes, I said, hitting reply on the email. I'm very sure. The morning of Sarah's wedding arrived bright and clear. As I helped Emma into her favorite dress, not the flower girl gown that now hung untouched in her closet, she looked up at me with big brown eyes. Mommy, why are we going to the park instead of Aunt Sarah's wedding? I knelt to her level, straightening her bow. Because today we're having our own special adventure. And guess what? Cousin Jack and Lily will be there too. That news brightened her face. Madison's ex-husband had agreed to take their kids for the day, finally putting his foot down about attending yet another event where they'd be ignored in favor of their tablets. But what about my flower petals? She asked, her lower lip trembling slightly. We'll bring some to the park, I promised, kissing her forehead. You can practice throwing them as high as you want. As Tom took the kids to the car, I checked my phone. 3 messages waited. From Jessica. Everything's set up exactly as you requested. You were right about the venue contract. From Grandma Rose. Just arrived at the church. Sarah's face when she saw me was priceless. Don't worry, dear. I'll handle things from here. From Madison's ex. Kids are with me. They're actually talking and playing for once. Madison's been calling nonstop. Perfect. What Sarah didn't know, what she hadn't bothered to check, was that I was the one who had originally booked the reception venue. 6 months ago, when she was overwhelmed with wedding planning, I'd offered to help. I'd signed the contract, paid the deposit, and handled all the arrangements. The venue was officially reserved under my name. And I just made some last-minute changes. Are you sure you don't want to watch this unfold in person? Tom asked as we drove to the park. I shook my head. No need. Jessica will record everything. Besides, I'd rather spend the day with our kids. The park was beautiful this time of year, full of blooming flowers, perfect for petal throwing practice. We set up a picnic under a large oak tree, and I watched as Emma taught Lucas how to make flower crowns. Around 4 p.m., just as Sarah's reception would be starting, my phone buzzed with a video from Jessica. You have to see this, she texted. I waited until the kids were engrossed in their games before watching it. The footage showed Sarah and her new husband arriving at the reception venue, her white dress flowing behind her as she swept through the doors, and then stopping dead in her tracks. Instead of the elegant, sophisticated decoration scheme she had planned, the reception hall had been transformed into a children's paradise. Bright balloons filled the ceiling, cartoon character cutouts stood at every table, and a massive bounce house dominated one corner. A sign hung over the entrance, "Welcome to the Family Fun Reception." But that wasn't all. Every table was set with plastic plates featuring popular children's characters, complete with party hats and noisemakers. The fancy champagne had been replaced with juice boxes. The sophisticated string quartet had been swapped for a beloved local children's entertainer. Sarah's face went from shock to furious as she stormed around the room, taking in every detail of her ruined, perfect reception. The video caught her confronting the venue manager, her voice rising to a shriek. This isn't what we planned. This is a nightmare. I'm sorry, ma'am, the manager replied calmly. But these changes were requested by the person who holds the venue contract. We were legally obligated to comply. What? But I'm the bride. The contract is under Lisa's name. She made these changes yesterday, well within the modification window. The video showed Sarah's face turning an interesting shade of purple as she spun around, probably looking for me. But of course, I wasn't there. Then Grandma Rose stepped into frame, her elegant suit a stark contrast to the colorful chaos around her. Sarah, dear, she said, her voice carrying that special tone that had kept the family in line for generations. We need to talk about your recent decisions. The video ended there, but Jessica kept the updates coming. Madison just arrived without her kids. She's having a meltdown. Half the guests are loving the bounce house. The other half are asking why your kids aren't here. Sarah tried to take down the decorations, but everything's secured with industrial strength adhesive. Your mother-in-law just had to sit down. I think she's finally realizing what Sarah did. I put my phone away and joined my children in the grass. Emma had made flower crowns for everyone, and Lucas was carefully placing his on Tom's head. This was exactly where we needed to be. Later that evening, after we had tucked the kids into bed, Tom showed me the flood of messages he had received from family members. Most were supportive, having finally seen Sarah's true colors. A few were angry, mostly those who had been in on her plans all along. "Eva shall never forgive you for this," he said, but he was smiling. "Good," I replied. "I'm done forgiving her for hurting our children." My phone lit up with a final message from Jessica. "Just finished cleaning up. You'll never believe what Grandma Rose did." Attached was a photo of the wedding guest book. There, on the first page, in Grandma Rose's elegant handwriting, was a message. "Dear Sarah, today was meant to be a celebration of family. Instead, you chose to exclude the very people who represent its future. Your actions have shown me that perhaps it's time to reconsider certain arrangements. We'll discuss this at Sunday dinner. Love, Grandma." I knew what that meant. Grandma Rose had been planning to sign over her vacation house to Sarah, the same house where we had all spent our summers growing up. It seemed those plans had changed. Was it worth it? Tom asked, wrapping his arms around me. I thought about Emma and Lucas, about the joy on their faces as they played in the park today, unburdened by rejection or judgment, about the lesson they'd learn from this someday, that they were worth standing up for. "Every penny," I replied. The fallout from Sarah's ruined wedding reception spread through the family like wildfire. Videos of the children's paradise I created had somehow made their way to various family members' social media, showing everyone exactly what had happened. The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. Sarah had posted a lengthy rant about how I'd destroyed her special day and traumatized her guests with the childish decorations. The comments, however, weren't quite what she'd expected. "Why weren't Emma and Lucas there? They're such sweet kids. Hold up, you uninvited your own niece and nephew 3 days before the wedding. Those party decorations look amazing. My kids would have loved that." By noon, Sarah had deleted the post. My mother-in-law called around dinner time, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "Lisa, I need to apologize. I should have said something when Sarah uninvited the kids. I just didn't want to cause drama." "No," I replied calmly, watching Emma and Lucas playing in the backyard through the kitchen window. "You didn't want to stand up to Sarah. There's a difference." She was quiet for a moment. "You're right. I've enabled her behavior for too long. But after what Grandma Rose said at the reception." Ah yes, Grandma Rose. According to Jessica, after that first message in the guest book, our family matriarch had spent the entire reception sharing stories about Sarah's childhood tantrums and pattern of cruel behavior. By the time she finished, several guests had left early, muttering about family values and poor leadership. "What exactly did Grandma Rose say?" I asked, genuinely curious. My mother-in-law sighed. "She announced that the vacation house would be going to you and Tom instead. Said something about needing it to be in the hands of people who understand family values." I hadn't expected that. The vacation house had been a point of contention for years, with Sarah constantly reminding everyone how she'd be turning it into a luxury rental property once she inherited it. "Sarah's furious, of course," my mother-in-law continued. "She and her husband had already started looking at property management companies." "That's not my problem," I replied, just like my children's feelings weren't her problem. The next Sunday dinner at Grandma Rose's was interesting, to say the least. Sarah and her new husband didn't show up, but everyone else did, including Madison's ex-husband with their kids, who were actually engaging in conversation instead of staring at screens. Grandma Rose took me aside after dinner, her eyes twinkling. "I saw the video of what you did at the reception," she said. "Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant." "I couldn't let her hurt my kids like that," I explained. She patted my hand. "Of course not. That's exactly why you're getting the house. Family means protecting each other, not tearing each other down." Sarah never understood that. 2 weeks later, we received a formal letter from Sarah's lawyer demanding compensation for her ruined reception. I forwarded it to my own lawyer, along with the venue contract in my name and documentation of Sarah's last-minute guest list changes. His response was succinct. "She doesn't have a leg to stand on. The venue was legally yours to modify." Sarah's next move was to try turning the family against me through a series of emotional social media posts about toxic family members and narcissistic sisters-in-law. But the tide had turned. People had seen her true colors, and they weren't backing down this time. Emma and Lucas, thankfully, remained largely unaware of the drama. We told them Aunt Sarah had to change her wedding plans, and they'd moved on with the resilience only children possess. The flower girl dress and ring bearer outfit were carefully packed away, not as painful reminders, but as evidence of a lesson learned about standing up for what's right. 3 months after the wedding, we hosted our first family gathering at the vacation house. Sarah wasn't there, of course, but the place was filled with laughter and joy. Children ran through the halls, played in the yard, and yes, made noise, because that's what children do. As I watched Emma teaching her cousins how to make flower crowns on the beach, the same skill she perfected that day in the park, Tom came up beside me. "You know," he said, wrapping an arm around my shoulders, "Sarah called me yesterday. Said she's ready to forgive us if we agree to sell her the vacation house." I laughed. "And what did you say?" "I told her that some things aren't for sale, like our children's dignity, for instance." Looking at our kids playing on the beach, at the family finally free from Sarah's manipulation, I knew we'd made the right choice. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about creating something better from the ashes of someone else's cruelty. "Mom," Emma called from the beach, "come see. We made crowns for everyone." As I walked down to join them, leaving thoughts of Sarah and her perfect wedding behind, I couldn't help but smile. Our children would grow up knowing they were valued, protected, and worth standing up for. And in the end, that was worth more than any wedding, any house, or any relationship built on conditional love. The flower crowns we wore that day weren't made of expensive roses or carefully curated blooms. They were made of wild beach flowers, a little crooked, a little messy, but absolutely perfect. Just like family should be,